United States of America. The Republic stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Roll call will show that all are present. Anybody have a conflict of interest with anything on tonight's agenda? Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Motion to approve that?
Move to approve.
Okay. Second. All in favor? We have minutes from our last session on April 28th. I move to approve that.
Move to approve.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I just have a minor tweak. On page 3, the second full paragraph from the bottom, where it says the beach needs, can you just change that to the town needs?
All right, all those in favor? All right. Okay. So we have some items from the Board of Assessors. There's a supplemental tax warrant that we need to approve. Any comments made on that before we go? All right, need a motion to approve that supplemental warrant.
Move to approve the supplemental warrant for 2025.
Thank you. In a second. Tracy? All those in favor? Okay, and then we have a specific one that dovetails with our last meeting. We had we got an error in one of the billings, so we have a special supplemental request for Kevin Duval on that property on the Grays Hill Road. We need to approve that. Motion to do so.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Jane. Second. Bill. All those in favor? Yeah. All right, we'll move on to open session. We don't have a public hearing this evening, but we do have as always, an open session for the public. Is there anybody in the audience that has questions or comments or statements? Sean?
Yes, Sean Hadley. I just, Steve probably knows, we're trying to, the dam committee, trying to get letters out to the general public. I don't know how many, Steve, like 3,000 or something to the public and to businesses. And I know there's been questions about the funding, and I talked to Bill today, and I want to just express my support that I think that's a great way for the town to reach out to people on a very important issue like this. And I've only been here 5 or 6 years, but I've never seen the town communicate like that. If we can get that out there, that's the best I've seen the town communicate. I think that goes a long ways to build a lot of goodwill and trust back to the town that people may have lost in the past, especially during this whole issue. There's people that are still unhappy about it, but this is one way to kind of rebuild that trust and get the letter out there, let people know what is actually on the line here, and it's very, very in-depth. He did a great job on that, and there's a FAQ on the website that you just edited, Steve. It really looks good, so I'm in support of that. I know that costs a little bit of money, and I told Bill I would be here to support his efforts to kind of get that funded. I don't think it's like $3,000-4,000 he wants, but I just want to set that out there. That I'm in support of that. It's money well spent. It's money for goodwill for the people in town to be informed. So,
And that letter was written by Bill or?
It was written by Bill. He did the original authoring of it, but the whole committee has gone around several times with all of our collective suggestions.
Sort of knocking on everyone's doors, sitting in their living room and talking about
That is,
what you can do.
yeah, exactly. And he was very cost conscious and made it as inexpensive as possible.
Other comments from the audience? Hearing none. We'll move on to comments from select board members. Cindy?
Yeah, I talked to Bill just briefly today, and he sent me the letters, lectures, because there's a specific ones that we can see. And I thought it was really well done. Of course, we're very lucky to have him here and on our committee. Also, I just wanted to highlight for people, I know it's been in the server and there are flyers around, but there is a forum for local election candidates on the 17th, which is this coming Saturday at 10 at Central Hall. So hopefully there'll be lots of people there, because we have school board is not a contested race, but the select board race is.
Oh, yeah.
Other comments? Tracy?
I just want to shout out to the fire department and police department. We lost a family member last night, and both of those departments were on scene and did a great job. So special thank you to those guys.
Other members, any thoughts or things? Okay, Emery.
Mine's easy, but tagging on to Sean, the fact page that's going on the dam committee to the town, but we could print that off to send that out. That's not illegal to, I want to send it to friends or people that can, so we can print it and send it.
Qualified as free speech, right?
Thank you.
We still have that in this bill.
I just want to say that I'm really happy with how the intersection, seven is shaping up. Now that I haven't been through today, I don't know if they did any work, but
They were there today.
yeah, I figured, did they do the last, level thing? So, just going over it this weekend and having the curving there to really show how the vehicles in the sweep is an obvious huge improvement. I'll be curious to see where the northbound lane of Route 7, how they handle, where they put the line for that, but I assume it's gonna be roughly the same.
The lines are there,
When did they put those on?
yeah. This is up
Well, it looks like.
Someone who lives on South Street has to have to back up from the intersection more times than I can recall.
Yeah.
It's nice that I don't have to do that.
All right, I'll take the long way home today and go take a look at those.
Other comments?
Well, I was gonna say, I have a list, so I'm just waiting.
Okay.
You've already done
Yeah,
two,
no,
so go ahead.
You got all you, run it.
Okay, well, number one, Memorial Day Parade.
Mhm.
I think the Legion wants to know if we will participate as the select board.
Only if Emery goes.
I'll go. I
Okay.
missed out last year, but I wasn't there.
I responded to the post saying that I would bring it up. And again, it's
Yeah.
Monday, the 27th. And we typically, they'll give directions as far as where to show up. 26th. I don't have my calendar.
I guess it's like 9:15, is that what we?
Typically, yeah. And the sidewalks and or crosswalks, when will they be painted?
So breaking, this will be happening, I think, this month. There's no specific date as of yet, but I know typically it's May, but the street sweeping gets done April, and then typically May is all line striping.
And then a question came up, and I'm wondering if the board could not get a copy of what the historical district is here in town. Because we looked at that and it didn't really give specifics, so that would be helpful. Also, actually on my way here, coming out of Norton Hill Road, which is kind of tricky because there's a bend in the road, I'm looking down and I'm thinking, that's not a dog. Well, it was the Amish coming. So it would be still nice to have signage out there to remind folks that they have priority on the road. And then last but not least, again, I think, with Alcina being our new town manager, I think we also have to recognize that, with that comes new energy and change. And so I think we as a board, as well as, Alcina needs to feel okay to say, I'm not gonna do it that way anymore. Or I have no idea why this is happening. And I think as Tom had mentioned, it's always been done. Well, I think it would be a wonderful to hear from you, Alcina, things that you would like to see changed. One specific is the committee roles and the work of the committee. I think, that just needs to be revisited so that it's supporting you as well as getting some of these issues that we bring up at our meeting. So. Go Joe.
Shout out for our new town manager. For those that don't see the behind the scenes, I think she lives here. I'm pretty sure she has like a hammock somewhere we don't know about. But she has been diligently working and learning and doing great things, even though people probably don't see the direct impact right away. I've had so many people from town office approach me and say they are so excited that she's here, that they are so happy she is talking to them, and there's already process improvement. So thank you for being you and doing what you're good at, because we appreciate it. And the other thing too is for our community, if you have questions, concerns, or ideas, bring them to us, bring them to her. We can't read your minds. We're not good at that. So we're happy to talk to you. And if we don't have an answer, we'll probably say, you know, I don't know, but I can get back to you. I'll look it up. And lastly, it's warmer outside, so everyone's going to be busy. School's getting out. Please look for volunteer opportunities, whether it's cleaning up your local parks, helping out with parades, committees that are looking to do activities. The local 4-H needs volunteer leaders to help with the kids. There's a lot to do, so I hope to see lots of our town stepping up and getting involved and making build what we know, which is the best place to go.
Sure, go ahead.
Speaking of volunteering, again, the Whoopie Pie judges need to be selected, and I'll re-forward the list.
Yeah.
I think it's like by the 15th or something like that of May, if you want them, so.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Emery?
Sorry, perhaps not volunteering straight away, but generally every year I would ask the town manager that she makes sure that the town crew has Monument Square mowed, painted, spruced up, and the flags are right and ready, and the PA is appropriate for what we're gonna do,
The cannons are polished.
and cannons are polished.
He went and got our ordered new flags
Good.
for around there, and, yeah. That's on his list and stuff to do before we want to.
Can do that.
Yeah, just thinking about communication. I tried to call you today and
Phone tree not work,
hmm,
phone tree not work.
I don't know. I left you a voicemail, but I have to go through, you know, it's not clear on the website about your extension because it gives the old extension for Jack's office. And then when I went to your extension, I got your voice and I left a message, but it was on if you got it. And
Yeah, it should be forwarding to that office, but I'll check
I
with
read-
the phone company.
Okay,
Do you prefer phone calls or?
Honestly, emails is the easier way to get through to me, cause I'm all over or my cell phone, honestly, cause that's on me, and if I'm like, throw me through the building, doing whatever, cause I'm not
Okay.
strapped to the desk.
so I don't know if you want that
Yeah.
published, but I don't
Yeah.
have that. And I also had emailed you, so
Okay.
there's something not working. Cause
I'll
I
take
had emailed you a couple weeks ago saying about the Arbor Day. You know, our designation
Yep.
as a tree city,
Right.
I think requires that we take a vote this time of year to, acknowledge Arbor Day,
Mm-hmm.
and we haven't done that this year, and it's not like the most important thing anymore. But if we want future money from the Canopy project and things like that, I think it matters, that designation does matter. So even though we're a little late and it's May, maybe you could check on that so that we can make sure we maintain that designation.
We're all still in favor of trees.
Well, I don't know if everybody is, but I am.
Any other comments?
Just wanted to, the issue of the, FA senior graduates and their banners.
On the utility code.
Yeah, apparently, you know, the wind took some of them and, just checking to see if, you know, having senior moms up there on the ladder doing it, is the safest. And actually on my way here, there was one right in front of the, Pat's Pizza. I'm thinking, oh, what a great woman you. So I don't know if we call to them or, you know, some sort of discussion as far as safety, and I don't believe we are giving permission, nor do we have to, but at the same time, are there safety concerns that they may have?
Yeah, those are senior parents that we're putting them up.
Correct, correct.
I saw a younger person putting one up.
Mhm. I don't know.
You didn't fall off.
I just want to make note of the pre-dump day we had on May 3rd. What a good job the transfer station crew did. They were really well organized, had their clipboards there. I was asked to show my dump sticker, not once but twice, which is a good thing. I mean, we have people, believe it or not, that abuse the privilege and try to dump stuff in Dover and they don't even live in town. And So it's good to see them not only run it flawlessly, but check on that for the line. Got rid of my old tires. Any other? Joel?
Like, jog my memory, Alcina, do you mind touching quickly on the tree issue we may be looking at?
Yeah, so, I was just shown by Tom McConnell this book that we have. A lot of our old trees are approaching the age of 250 years for a lifespan. And then we had a bunch of silver maples that have an average lifespan of 50 years that were planted, and they're right directly in our right of way, basically. So this is something that the town is going to have to look at as far as we're going to be cutting down a lot of trees soon because they're end of life, breaking off, woodpeckers, whatever it might be. So I know some have gotten addressed. There's some that that are in the state right away. The state's so if they're in the state right away, we direct people to go ahead and call the state to report them. If they're in our right of way, we obviously have to take care of them. So just looking forward, there are going to be more and more trees that we are going to be taking down, on people's property from previous, just the old trees, and then also the ones that were planted, say, 50-ish years ago, or whatever that is.
So,
Yeah, so we have had a tree committee in the past, when we've gotten, Project Canopy money to replace trees. We also did a tree census for the other students. So a lot of our trees have, the silver medallions on them that, so we need to be intentional about that, I think, and about replacing them with healthy trees. Our streets without trees, would be not pleasant, we need all the shade we can get. So I think this is, we might want to reconvene the tree committee. James Tyson served on that for a few years, and a few other folks that I could evoke if I really thought about who that was, but, I think you can't just take them down without replacing them for them. And people think they're on their lawn, but they really belong to the town.
Right, they're on our right of way.
I know it requires some moving sometimes, but, I think they need them.
I would just, clearly, we wouldn't be taking them all down in 1 year. This would be a 10-year program that we might be looking at, or longer, to get some down and get some replanted.
That's a lifetime job in
Yeah.
this town.
Yes.
With all the
But 250 years, and some of them are standing. It won't matter if we take them down this year or last year or next. They need to be replaced with a proper, and if we're tired of,
We're a tree city.
then we must be able to have access to trees or.
What do you do with all that firewood that you got?
Firewood.
Yeah, from the trees?
I want them.
No, well, I guess, the town, if you take a tree down, you have to.
Oh, well, we should have, the thing.
Actually,
Actually, Alcina, do you want to touch on the wood bank progress?
There hasn't been much, but, Joel went down to transfer station. There is a space, behind where basically people just dump their free wood, to start a wood bank there. And then obviously we would need volunteer help because I don't think they got, the folks at transfer station or just in general have enough time in the day to get it all split, stacked, and all that kind of stuff. So, but there is a spot that people can access if they needed, for emergency heating.
Yeah.
So.
That's what I was getting at. Taking all these trees down, you're gonna have firewood. The federal government is eliminating the LIHEAP program, which people depend on, not the trees in their homes, so they can provide access to the firewood generated by taking trees down. We could turn a lousy situation into a situation.
When I spoke to Ken, it was kind of a win-win because they don't have to mulch as much. It doesn't cost us as much money. They can move the wood right over, depending on how we organize the volunteers. Some of this crew for insurance reasons, have to run the heavy equipment, but I said if we got about a dozen of the IBC steel containers, you can stack the wood in there. It's right there, it's safe, and but I felt like putting like 3 over here as well, because if it's the middle of the night, they can't get in or get to it, but having it here and reflushing it is actually pretty easy to put everything at. So I think it's a win-win for the town to make sure people have it.
Any other board comments? Do we need to make any adjustments to the agenda? Okay. No?
Not
Okay.
that I'm aware of.
All right, move on to committee reports. We talked about the dam committee putting that letter out to the community. The Promotion and Development Committee had a meeting where we received a proposal from the ATV club in town, and Alcine's going to give an update on that under her town manager's report. We are scheduling a public hearing on that for our second meeting in May. And Protection Committee met Friday. Is there anything to report on that?
Some of the items are on the agenda, but we've got an update from EMS. We're also, tentatively gonna have the special event policy on the agenda for our next meeting. A long discussion regarding, code enforcement and the needs and kind of the inventory of what's happening, that sort of thing. And last but not least, some upcoming, fire contracts with, our neighbors, so. Anything else?
All right, so going to unfinished business, we have an update on the status of 130 Grove Street. Our code enforcement staff is here and the property owner is also here. So, Brian or Nan, do you want to provide that information?
At the last select board meeting, you folks voted to give Wharton 45 days for us to come up with a plan. The 45 days was up last Saturday. She's had people clean up the yard. The yard looks lovely. We still don't have a plan with regard to the building. We have not met with her and her contractors. The third party inspector has not been there. We haven't been able to schedule that. So, that's where we stand. Anything you want to add, Brian? That's it.
No, for the other side of the story.
So I am hoping for some additional time. I have made a good faith effort in cleaning up the property, making it look better. I haven't had a contractor come in and do the porch work that I had talked about the last time. We've had a couple of, we've had some estimates come in. I got one, my dad got another one that was exceptionally high. The weather's been kind of crazy, a lot of rain. It's a busy season, but I do, anticipate that I would have someone to be able to at least demolish the front porch within, I think he said hopefully a couple of weeks. I'd like to ideally get 45 days, but I'd like to have that front porch come down before I schedule, the inspection. I'm still not super comfortable with having the inspection. I understand that usually how it goes, but you know, the property was assessed from the outside, not from the inside. So, it feels like if I can, I've done a lot of the things that were mentioned, by code enforcement with respect to the outside, the cleanup of the property, like some tree trimming, the yards cleaned up, and I can, have someone come back and continue to mow it as it starts to grow back. But I did the front and the backyard. There's a big clear area now on the side of the house that abuts our neighbor. So that I think will, you know, it looks better. And, you know, got a lot of, when we moved, we had a partially furnished house, so I still have a lot of personal belongings there. So I'd like to have a chance to, you know, get those organized and things like that as well. I'm trying. I don't know. Ultimately, I don't know, you know, it might be an awful lot of work for for me to do the things that need to be done to actually get up to code, but I don't know that being up to code was the goal. It was not being dangerous. So, I'm just hoping for some more time.
So, yeah, actually, the goal is to remove the dangerous, status of the building, and getting rid of the front porch would be number one step in that, is that code enforcement?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you are willing after the porch is done to have, an inspection of the building?
Yeah.
And this would be, it's not going to be the public trooping through every room of the house. It's going to be a pretty low key thing.
Well, and it does kind of feel a bit intrusive. I mean, I know a lot of the other places that have been actually raised, were vacant at the time, so, this is, I still have, like I said, I still have a lot of personal belongings
Sure.
there.
And then, we're looking at this, not belongs in the building, but the structural shape of the building itself. So, is, a couple more weeks to, she said is the minimum needed to get that porch tended to on the front. Is that something is that in line with what you had?
I mean, honestly, right now, it's between the board and the property owner. We're at this stage, before the select board, so really, we're just here to give you an update where we stand, and really what the board and property owner feels fair.
Sure.
So I understand it's kind of a consensus, the porch probably needs to come off. I guess my question is, if we had an agreement last time, for you to find a contractor and come in, with someone from our side to look at it and come up with a list. To me, the porch is not a holding factor on you following through the agreement you had with us. Because if you bring in an individual who's a professional, does their living, they'll look at it and say, you're right, the porch doesn't need to come off. Now here's a list of the other things. So, I feel it's a bit disingenuous that you didn't follow through with what we asked. When we made it very clear, we just want a list to try to be as helpful as we can. So if we're willing to give you more time, what can you say to reassure us that we're not going to give you 45 more days? And then you come back and say, I still didn't do what I agreed to do. And then we're back here having this conversation again. I want your home to be fixed. I want you to be able to live in your home. I understand it can be invasive having people come in, but we had agreement. So whether or not the porch comes off doesn't change the fact we still need to make sure that if there's anything else that needs to be addressed, that it gets done. So is there anything you can say to reassure us that the more time will get used according to the agreement?
Well, I think when you actually look at the timeline of the process itself, it takes a year for, usually from what I have seen from all the other houses, it's been taking at least a year from the time that it comes before the board and the decision is made to the time that the house is actually being moved. If the order is entered, there still should be 14 days to get the permit, and then another 30 days for an appeal period. So there, if I can get it done in 45 days, it would save a lot of time and effort for everyone else. Save legal fees, and additionally, I'd be willing to consider a consent order, which could theoretically cut down that timeline if I waived my appeal period.
Right. And we don't want to tear your house down. We don't want to tear down any houses at all. And that's the whole point. We want to make sure that hopefully it gets rehabbed and it's exactly what your family wants and needs. It sounds like it's important to your family, spending your family for a while from the way you've been talking about. Nor do we want to have you incur a cost from tearing down a home you love. Nobody wants that at all. So thank you for your answer. I appreciate it.
Emery.
I was just wondering, the two bits of discussion that came up, two things came to mind. One was third party hasn't been there to have a look inside, and it appeared there's not a lot of communication between you and the code enforcement, and they were two of the major things that we sat here 45 days ago and all agreed if we'd had better communication, we might not be in this boat. And it's already come up that they haven't really heard from you or you not from them. And it's, pretty intrusive, you're feeling at the moment, but I'm thinking with some more communication with the code enforcement and you trying to get some, contractors and stuff in there to have a look, do some quoting, whatever, just communication that it might be less intrusive if everybody was more open about where we're headed. And when you say the porch is in whatever, I agree with Brian it's kind of irrelevant. We need someone in there looking to see what needs to be done to fix the house. It's not just pull the porch off or put the roof on. And I thought that's what we asked before was, we need someone in there with you, with them, with communication saying, this is what needs to be done, and then we can look at it from there. So I'm not opposed to saying, yes, okay, we're working with you when we get to that point, but we need some work back, and it isn't just raking the lawn and pruning some trees. Unfortunately, it's the house, the building that we're worried about. So that would be my thought.
Other comment?
I have a question. So would her estimates be part of the building plans, renovation and or?
No, we don't need to see any financial part of that.
But I mean, to me, the estimate would say remove porch, fix windows, et cetera,
Yeah,
et
we'd
cetera.
want to see a detail list from the contractor, what it would take to, or from the inspector. They'll give us a list of what needs to be repaired to make the structure safe again. So usually that's what we'll get out of the report. He'll say, the foundation this, the roof this, the front porch, he'll go through and write a whole detailed report on what needs to be repaired.
That's the inspection, but what she's saying is she has an estimate, which she projected that it was too high. Well.
And that was just to take the porch off, which is not
Right.
the bulk of the problem.
Yeah, we usually don't see financial parts of it. It's usually up to the homeowner or property owner to figure out how to make it work. We never usually see numbers unless the town gets involved on our end.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and so when we're just reminding me of, when there's a spotlight on something, sometimes more things come into play than originally you anticipated. And so just thinking about the dangerous building criteria is what needs to be remediated. It's not about if there's a crack in the wall or whatever. It's about, is it a safe structure? So it just as we've been speaking about it, I thought, is it better to have Ken Salvucci build it than just say, these are the things that really would make it a safe structure again, rather than a contractor might say, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to upgrade the plumbing, things that aren't really relevant to being a dangerous building.
Correct,
So
and that was supposed to be done during the time frame.
I'm just thinking it might be your benefit to have Ken come in and develop that list. And then those are the things to focus on that make it a dangerous structure, not what would we like it to see. It's not about that. It's about danger. So maybe it would be better to have Ken get in there sooner rather than later. Then you know exactly what has to be remediated.
Were you reluctant to have the building inspector go into the property while the porch is still in the situation it is? Is that part of your thinking?
I just feel like I'd like to have more work done on the exterior. The criteria, the decision was made without viewing the inside, and there may or may not be things in there, and I mean it's.
That we won't know until you allow the inspector to go in. So, see, that seems to be the holdup, and that shouldn't take 45 days to get that done. That's a 1 day, inspection and can be done anytime you let them in there.
I do know that I was reviewing some minutes, and there was another property owner in town who actually owned the property. And, it wasn't a bank-owned situation. And that gentleman was given 90 days, he was given 3 months, at the meeting to, you know, demolish the place where that he had lost to a fire, but he was given a total of 3 months. So it feels that, you know, I understand you want to get someone in there to look at it but at the same time, someone else was given more time, less, you know, work to
So
do.
you're asking for extension.
Mhm.
How much of an extension would you like?
I would like 45 days,
45 additional days.
Which would make it 90 days.
What you
Which
think?
make it 90 days.
What's the board's thoughts on that?
I personally think then we're getting through the fall and winter and not able to. I say within a week, if we're not able to get a home inspection, then we need to take action.
Other thoughts? Then?
Yeah, I think we need to be consistent with what we've done in the past, if we've offered 90 days. I don't know if there's something different about this property and that
I would
property.
need to know what specific property we're talking about, because all the properties that come before you are all now gone. And if it is the one I'm thinking of, that homeowner had to rent his own equipment and tear his own house down. So that might have been the 90 days that the house was done since.
Right.
So I need more detail of that.
Yeah.
But if we tore it down, it means we also had somebody go inside and value it. Correct.
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue is we're not exactly sure what the 45 days is for, because we don't know what the rest of the issues with the house is. So I don't think there should be any hold up on getting somebody in there to give us a list. In terms of the amount of time allowed for executing whatever's on the list, it's a separate issue. Running out all 90 days without us even knowing what needs to be done doesn't, that 90-day period, we knew the house needed to come down the whole time. So, it's not an apple to apple comparison. We gave them 90 days to actually do the work rather than to even figure out what the scope of work is. So I think you need to let the inspector in immediately or whenever Ken's available. That doesn't mean that all the work has to be done immediately. You need to know. And I mean, I would think you would want to know that too, because the list is relatively small. Then, you know, that could make a nightmare scenario come back down to earth. Or it could be that the structural integrity is worse than you expected and then you make other arrangements. But putting that off is not going to help you any.
Well, we've given her 45 days, he's asked for another 45, which would bring it to late June. Should be plenty of time to do that this summer. I could put the appetite of the board to do that and, get more time. I agree with Steve that there should be no hold up in getting an inspector in that building.
It's a communication
Right, that can be
inspector.
done in a week's time. The work that needs to be done after the inspection is made is step 2. But,
I'm willing to say within the next 14 days, somebody should be able to go in and do that evaluation and give us the information.
I agree with that.
Julian-
None of us can make a decision without it.
right, could you work with the code enforcement office to schedule a time within the next 14 days to have the inspector and the code enforcement personnel go into that building and
I
get that baseline list done?
don't have much of a choice.
Well, I mean, our patience is not infinite.
It really is in your best interest to know the scope of problem sooner rather than later. Because if the scope of work comes back, we've got a plan for getting it remediated, the time to do that is going to be based on how much work needs to be done. So it's very difficult for us to say right now, 45 days is the correct amount of time because we don't even know what the scope of work is.
Well, and we wouldn't want you to spend your money on the wrong thing either. I mean, if you assumed something was an issue and you spent all this time and money on it, only to find out it wasn't, it's like there's something else that is even more of an issue. It would align, your finances better, of course, to try to get this moving.
Joel, you suggested a 14 days to inspect the property. Would you make a motion to that effect?
Yes, I make a motion to approve 14-day window to get the property inspected, and then we can meet at the next.
Is there a second to Joel's motion? Further discussion on that motion? Can you comply with that? Please.
We'll have to.
Okay.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to new business, we have a report from Stacy Shore, Superintendent of Schools for our 68. An update on the school budget. Welcome, Stacy. Good to see you.
Hey, good to see all of you.
We're getting
Uh-oh.
You?
We are getting tested.
I just hand it down, right? It's not all for me. All good.
Need more time to study.
These are notes.
This implies that she signed off on it. It implies that she's.
Okay.
Where's got the document? All right. Stacy, take it away.
All right, so at that time of year,
Got extras if anybody.
peek at them.
It's fine.
If you want one.
Yes.
No, don't forget.
No.
You wouldn't have to.
Those are new to school.
So we always start with our guiding principles. We have two this year that we're focused on. One is that the RSU 68 school board is committed to making transparent, student-centered budget decisions. And the second, that it is committed to making budget decisions that reflect the district mission statement. So the initial work began in December, where we put together with the staff our needs and wishes. And then in January, we began in earnest to really kind of tear things down. On the 25th of January, we received our ED 279, and that total amount was $445,857.65 more than what we received last year. So that was really good news. We had 7 fewer students from last year to this year, but we also, our free and reduced numbers were up from 42% to 51%. And so that made a really big difference because those numbers go through the entire 279. The Finance Committee met in January, February, and March. And in January, the committee gave the administrative team the direction to look at a small increase. So overall, you'll see a 3.9% increase to taxpayers from last year to this year. Charleston is showing the greatest increase at 5.8% or $36,607.24. Dover-Foxcroft is showing the smallest increase with 3.2% or $91,351.24. The additional local that was required by the state this year was $116,000 increase. And overall, it's $186,798 increase to taxpayers because we increased the local additional an additional $70,000. A couple of pieces of information that impact the numbers. A 3-year rolling average on property valuations is 1, and the second is the number of students in the town. So those two things work in tandem to create what the state deems a municipality is required to pay for a district to receive the state portion of the funding. The local additional amount formula is much more of a student's number driven piece of data. So if we look at regular instruction, you'll see that is up $459,843. That is an ESO Ed Tech 3 that's in those lines. We also have added a social worker. We've had a social worker, but that person has been being paid for with a grant that runs out this year. Now, I did apply for the opioid grant, and we were supposed to hear April 15th, which would have been perfect timing with the budget. Unfortunately, they bumped that back until May 27th, so we have not heard yet whether we received that grant. Health insurance increase. So this year, health insurance came in around 3.4% as for an increase. And we also, when we negotiated the contract for single subscriber, it went from 85% to 87.5% that the district paid. So we increased that 2.5% this year.
Thank you. Before you go further, can you say what's the source of the grant for the social worker?
Right, the current one that I just wrote,
Yeah.
it's the opioid grant
Oh,
through the state.
yeah. Thank you.
So is there any chance for reimbursement if that work is part of social workers' responsibility now?
I mean, there's no,
Guaranteed.
yeah, well, and there's no way, like, there's no way to be able to, we won't use that money. If we get the grant,
Yeah.
the money that is sitting in the budget
Yeah.
will just sit there. And we won't use it. We'll move it forward, and next year we'll move it out. But because there was no guarantee of whether we get that grant or not, I had to go in the budget to ensure we had a way to pay that salary. And also, just as a reminder, through all of these lines, state FMLA is in all of those lines as well. Special education instruction shows a $163,715 increase. Again, that's salary increases, health insurance increases. We added in Ed Tech to FA. They are getting, our 8th grade class is our largest class with 95 students, and I believe 37 of them have needs. So, and some of them have significant needs. So we are adding another Ed Tech to FA to support those students. Career and technical education shows a $20,409 increase, and Dexter just negotiated their salaries, and so that is a majority of what those costs are, those increases. Other instruction shows a $5,026 increase. So when you think about other instruction, it's our coaches, it's our after-school programming, and all of those salaries are based on the base salary, which had a $1,000 increase from last year to this year. Student and staff support shows a $49,867 increase. So along with salaries and insurance, there's also a piece of equipment, our firewall is, we were told, I think in October, that they would no longer support it. So we've kind of crossed our fingers and hope things were going to go well for the rest of this year. And then we've put that in the budget, and that's about $22,000 for that firewall. System administration shows a $37,240 increase. We have added, or we will be adding a piece of software called Time Card Plus, so that we have been doing paper time cards forever, and we thought, well, okay, maybe it's time we step forward. So we will be slowly adding all of our staff that fill out time cards will be transitioning over to this new system.
I would assume in the longer term, that's going to be a routine, because now somebody must be looking through all the people.
Yes, and going through each. So she'll be able to, I think the beauty of this is that she'll be able to kind of go in and she'll be able to put the calendar in, so that if it's a holiday or whatever, those things will already be in and already with the correct time and hours. So she spends a lot of time, our business manager, going through each individual time card. So school administration is showing a $12,010 decrease. That's an insurance difference. We have two different administrators than we have this year, and so that's that change. Transportation is showing a $10,000, $78, increase. So that's contracted, through our transportation, so 2%, increase from RALs and a 3% increase from wings.
3% on.
Yeah. Facilities and maintenance show a 51,898 increase, and that's minor capital, and we'll talk about that in just a second. Our debt service is showing a $28,865 decrease. We will be done paying for Seto in 2027. We are so close.
Mortgage lending.
So for total expenses, that shows an increase of $757,201. There will be a few other additional warrants, as there always are. So the adult ed budget, this year, our portion is $71,455.66. And that's an increase of $4,147.39. And it's just money very well spent. We'll be putting $150,000 in the reserve account for educational needs from this current budget. And then we will turn around and spend $180,000 of that for FA tuition and for the additional ed tech. We'll expend $207,000 from the capital improvement reserve. Expenditures will include a one-time cost of $127,000, which covers the difference the grant didn't pay for the HVAC system, which is the next PowerPoint we'll talk about. It will also include flooring at 572 and at Seto. The shed roof, the shed roofs at Seto desperately needs to be redone. And then both of our office spaces at Seto are not ergonomically appropriate. So we just really need to raise those up a little bit for our administrative assistants. So that shows that Charleston is showing a 5.85% increase, Dover 3.2, Monson 5.3, Quebec 4.1 for a total of 3.96%.
Questions?
Any questions?
Question way back on number 3. So are families still filling out the lovely food, questionnaire?
No, so we were actually, our free and reduced rate has gone up to like 56% for next year. The state had us fill out forms and we did it, it's for 3 years. So we don't have to do anything for 3 years. Yeah. And so our rate will stay the same, our percentage.
Yeah, just wondering about, well, how to focus my question. So I saw the federal cuts that have happened, money that's been frozen, money that's come back. How does that affect what you believe to be true about the food system, the lunch, breakfast system, and
So far, we have never been frozen out of the system. We have always received our money. So that has been wonderful. It looks like Heather has written the grants for summer programming. It looks like that's all a go. I was a little nervous about summer school funding because we write through Title I to get that money, and we received money for that. So what they're telling us out of Washington right now is that Title I and local entitlement will be flat funded. So just using that information, looking at salaries and trying to kind of project that way. But we're anticipating our money as of right now.
And the state legislature now, where are they at this money for continuing to work for full time for on food.
For food, so I know that it was on their agenda and they had meetings, workshops yesterday and today, and it looks like it went through party lines to move forward.
Fingers crossed.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
When you say, when you say set amount paid for in 2027, what does that actually mean apart from it's paid for, and or what condition is the building in, and you know, what are we getting, where are we at? Is this wonderful? And
It's great news that, yeah, so it'll be the elementary edition. That was the new wing.
right,
So that piece will be paid for. And what we've been doing, on the middle school side, which has not really been touched, is revamping all of that. So we put a new roof on, we put new windows in, we insulated, we put in a new boiler, and we're working slowly but surely to upgrade, like the flooring needs some TLC. So those are the kinds of things that we've been doing at the middle school. Oh, and the lights, we've updated all of the lights as well. So they're all LED.
so like there are no surprises coming, the building's in okay condition.
I hope so.
No, but I mean,
Yes,
you're working on the
Yes.
older bits of the building.
yes.
The other.
Yeah, I mean, when we had the pipe burst in the gym, maybe 5 or 6 years ago now, we had somebody go through and look at all of the joints, for the plumbing and make sure that those were all the soldering was good. And so, yeah, we've tried to be very mindful about keeping the buildings in good and keeping up with the building renovation work.
Any other questions? Do you want to touch on the resolving renovation grant?
Sure, yeah, I did just give you that
that.
one separate sheet,
Oh, yeah.
just to kind of give you a view. Actually, Barney put this together. You can see that, RC 68, yeah, our per pupil expenses are the lowest in the area. And I feel like we offer a lot of really good programs for that to be.
Well, I put that little note at the bottom, it says, Foxcroft Academy. No, who wrote that?
Who would have said that?
But it is, you know, I think we're recognized as having the finest educational system in the area. But we also have by far the lowest per pupil expenditures. It's not a bad combination.
Why do we think that is so? Well, okay, it looks great, and I'm sure it is, but what is the great management? Is
So
it's okay if you say it.
Critical mass of students have something.
It's the number of students.
Right.
Really helps us. So
Yes.
we are, while many of these, districts are losing students, we
Yes.
continue to gain.
Right.
That makes a big difference.
Even though we lost 7.
Even though,
Okay.
yes, we lost 7, overall, though, we're up right now, we're at 671 right now.
You haven't, touched, maybe it's when you and Arnold are both here, your homeschool numbers, are they rising, are they plateauing?
They're plateaued.
Right, and
Yep.
they're just,
You have an idea of how many students that is?
Oh, goodness, when I counted in the fall, it was under 100, and typically we've
90
been,
is what.
yeah, and typically we're over, just over.
You're always gonna have a certain percentage. You wanna do that for one reason or another. You know, it's fine.
Yeah, it is.
671.
Yeah. Well, and then the academy has almost 400, so but yeah, it's still close to 10%.
sorry, still the homeschool, are just, they're all welcome to participate in, is it all activities or? some
So
are after-
we have students participating in like the music program.
Yeah.
We have some students that have come in and participated in like in an English class. And we've had, many students come and participate in athletics.
Right, yeah. And that's all welcomed and.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And that works okay?
Yeah.
Like at the age of 12 and 15, and they're all happy, it's good?
Yeah.
Yep.
So far it's worked well.
That's right, yeah.
So how's teacher retention?
So right now we have a lot of internal movement, but, we advertised and have been in the process of hiring 2 second grade teachers and a math coach position open right now. And we're in the process of hiring for the second grade positions.
Is there a trend for age group teaching that fluctuates? Like, you're losing more second graders, but everybody wants to teach sixth grade, or like eighth grade is the flavor of the month, and they all hate fifth grade.
Our middle school is pretty steady. Our elementary, they tend to they move around a little more.
Yeah.
If we have a second grade teacher going to kindergarten.
The most important years.
They're so cute. Revolving renovation grant is the last piece that I have to share with you. So we were awarded, just under $1 million for the revolving renovation grant because we're cohort 1. I think we talked about that in the fall for the 3 and 4-year-olds. So we have, the state says that all districts over the course of 5 years will take 3 and 4-year-olds that have special needs. And so we were in our first cohort that took those students, and those students are at 572. Right now, we knew that when we kind of put that program together that it was going to make sense for us to do a collaborative. So Dexter has students, Guilford has students, Milo doesn't have students, and I think they are working to try to put their own program together in the range, I think, for next fall. But because of that, we were eligible. They had $2 million in revolving renovation grant funds, and our HVAC system was in kind of tough shape. We had somebody come in and do like CO2 testing, and so we had fresh air coming in, but nothing going out. So our air was kind of stagnant, especially in the rooms where our little guys were. So we applied for this grant, received it. They would not approve the pieces that were like the central office, obviously, and a law firm. So those pieces had to come out. That 16% had to come out. And so the grant would pay for, just like the 279, 67 cents on every dollar, will get forgiven. And then the district is responsible for the other 33%. And we're eligible for the 33% for a 10-year interest-free loan. So, the state would forgive $640,000, and, the district would need to pick up the other $330,000, 33,000 over 10 years. That makes sense? Then I put in here just a visual so you could kind of see the areas, on the second page. And we also have the controls are just a mishmash. I think there are 3 different company controls that we have in the building. So there's only one very small section that is actually efficient in terms of being able to use the controls. And then I just put a copy of what the ballot, it's pretty straightforward. The only piece that I just want to make sure people understand is that 330,000 is over 10 years with an interest-free loan. So it's actually 33,000.
Any questions on that part of it? Thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Final question there?
Probably because I don't pay close enough attention when you were talking about the lower offices and the admin, and so when you're upgrading the HD, are they doing that as well at the
Yes,
same
we're
time?
doing it.
Even though we're right, that's all I wanted to know. The whole building is being done, so yeah.
Probably if we had better air in here, we didn't.
Yeah.
Like that.
Got a question, James?
Budget meeting?
Budget meeting is the 27th. So the one for the revolving renovation grant starts at 5:30, 6 o'clock, the public meeting for the budget, and then 6:30 the vote.
Linda, that's it on.
That's right, we're gonna have our meeting on the night after.
Oh, great.
Thank you very much for
Thank
everything
you.
you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you can hang around if you want to, but you can also leave.
Yeah.
We won't take you back. All right, so under, also on the new business, item B is approval of the annual town meeting warrant, which we have in front of us. But hopefully improve that because I think we've already signed it all. Anything you need to, speak to about this, Alcina, the warrant? Well, you have-
Nope, everything looks good. I'll review the ballot items also. It was all finalized and ordered. Here we go.
All right, need a motion to, approve the warrant?
Would you approve?
Thank you. Second?
Second.
And all in favor?
Oh, discussion.
Oh, good.
No.
Discussion, yeah.
I do have a issue that I spoke earlier of the 5 articles, and it is confusing. And is that any different than we've ever done before? And the dam committee is all about Articles 9 and 10, and there's no Article 9 and 10, I just.
Right, but you relate to the letter that's going out on the dam.
Yes,
I think
that's
we're gonna, we've talked about that,
Email.
yeah, right.
Bill that.
Right, we talked about that before the meeting started informally.
Yes,
So, that's what we're taking care of, and, but no,
So
the,
that's gonna be Article.
but
4
the
and
approach,
12.
the approach to this, the consolidation of some of the budget numbers into one article is what we do.
Okay, yeah.
Well, again, I'm just wondering, because, some people have come to the dam meeting, it's just stuck in their head, Article 9, Article 10. So if we could do, media blurbs about what you see in print is accurate, it's just different numbering or whatever, so that folks aren't looking for number 9 and 10.
Alcina, did you catch all the 9s and 10s in the FAQ?
No, I have to go back and change it. But
Yeah.
it was just pointed out earlier when the draft.
Cause I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
I was like 9 and 10, 9 and 10, 9 and 10.
9 and 10.
9 and 10.
Yeah.
All right, so that'll be hopefully clarified before people go into the vote. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Next item C, we have an update, information from Alcina on the 50 Mayo Street, formerly the Mayo Street School. You have talked to the president of Eastern Maine Community College about their plans to have. Why don't you
Yes.
share that information with us?
So it looks like Eastern Maine Community College is looking to move forward about putting an RFP out to get a brokerage firm to put them on the market. There was some interest as far as, well, why doesn't the town take it and we sell it, type of thing. The college is still open to that opportunity. As I spoke with her but we would have to literally make the decision this week and give her an answer. And, it would have to be as is, free and clear, no strings attached type of thing. They walk away from it. As you know, there's probably about, if we're looking to just flip it type of thing, we would also have to probably go along the lines of the same thing of putting it on the market. I know she mentioned that there are 2 investors already interested in the property. They would keep it similar as far as, she couldn't divulge exactly what they planned on it, but they wanted basically for office space. So that chances are that's probably possibly what they might be heading towards. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. I mean, things to think about. We did take the money out of our budget for it because we didn't get the congressional spending. So that is something that if we do take that on, we're gonna have that cost until we can offload that. That's pretty much the rundown I was given. We have a deadline. of
They
this
have
week,
informed the tenants that their
Yes.
leases are up at the
July
end of
29th,
July.
I believe, yeah, is the date. Yeah, tenants have been informed and looking for other spaces and all that.
So we voted at the end of March not to maintain the town's interest in this building and let Eastern Maine Community College sell it. Any appetite for something different? Alcina pointed out, we don't have the money to rehab the building, we don't have the money to take care of the overhead,
Taking care of it.
we're not in the real estate business, and we don't have any town use for that building.
Timing is not good.
Yeah, but I think that if we could, we would. I just don't see how we could fiscally even putting on the market to sell. We don't know the time frame on that and how it would play out. We haven't budgeted for it. That's still how we can pull it off. Even though there's a potential, obviously, to recoup some money out to use. There's no window here. It's not like, you know, the people that are saying, if you get it, we're gonna buy it from you. And there is costs sometimes to put them on market.
Oh, yeah.
This did not go through promotion and development, did it?
No.
Okay. Perhaps it should in the future, just so that we can either collect more information or, explore options, et cetera, et cetera.
We brought it to the full board.
Right, but I mean,
Yeah.
committee work is part of what we are supposed to be doing with our job. Looking at other options and or, you know, grants, whatever, via the committee. So I would just put that out there.
Any other thoughts?
That I feel like we really talked about it and kind of, you know, we're all interested in what would happen in the middle of that neighborhood and how limited its development prospects are because of where it's located. So I think, you know, at the same time, we're also talking about the Wiley House and other properties that we are responsible for already. So it felt like it would be great to be able to be more active with it, but it's really not our job. I think in summary is what we came to. We're interested in what happens there. I know I said, wouldn't it be great if there were housing for older people or, you know, because it's a great spot for something like that, but we don't have the capacity to make that happen.
I think we're just, the short timeline that we had is just, there's no, because this isn't the normal part of this, it's not like a dump truck became available for sale. We're used to jumping on those kinds of things. This would be the largest infrastructure acquisition by the town after this building, and to have a week to come up with a plan for that is not practical, especially if we just did the budget.
Right, we took the money out of the budget based on our understanding of that and thoroughly talked about it in open session.
So I'll just say, like, I think all of us, I regret that we didn't have like months to go and research and try to figure out if there was something as we did for Central Hall. We had a lot of time to put into that.
Well, in this case, one day we had $1.5 million for Washington, the next day we had zero. So, I think we don't need to act on this. We've already acted on the March. And information only. Thank you for reaching out, Alcina. And we'll move on to item D, which is the letter of support from the select board to Maine EMS for the beginning of, we're applying for the license to have our fire department run the EMS. And Brian is sitting patiently in the background. Anything you need to add to this?
Not a house fire?
Well, you told me to.
Oh, I was, but then,
Oh.
I don't know what happened. I'm back. They didn't need us.
You don't smell like smoke.
Yeah.
It's not they don't need you, right?
We'll have the candles.
Basically, at, this point in time, we're looking for a lot of support with the board to go along with all the other documents to go into Maine EMS, which hopefully in turn they'll go away tomorrow, which will be our transporting application. And the feasibility study has come back for the Maine EMS board to review. So we're hoping to send all that information out with your support tomorrow, to start that process. And tomorrow afternoon at 3:30, we have a sit down with Northern Light to see how those agreements are gonna start. So all in all, everything's going pretty good and still moving in the right direction.
Any idea when we're gonna get the final green light on this?
So last Saturday, we have to put a public notice, in the Bangor Daily. We have a 30-day public comment. If Maine EMS receives no, public comment within, I think it's June, I have to count June 8th, then they can move forward, start the inspection process. And if we come up with a formal agreement with Northern Light, depending on how the mutual aid contract is going to work, it doesn't necessarily have to go to the Maine EMS board. The licensing agents can review them and permit. at that time, if we do not have a formal agreement with Northern Light, then we have to go to Augusta and go in front of the full board and explain what's going on. So I would love to say in a perfect world, it's this date, but we've done this so many times,
Right.
so when I have that transport and license, I'll say, hey, here we go, we're here. So, but we're close, we're doing better than we were.
We've done everything that can be done.
Yep.
I know it's been some frustrations along the way, but
Yeah.
we're eventually gonna get there. I think we're gonna have a better service for people who live in Dover.
Now, we've already indicated our support of this. We need to vote on this.
We should have an actual motion, what we've signed, a very short letter, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And, but we've already signed it, but we should, you know,
So I
no more
would
or less
move
that.
that we sign the letter
okay.
that's been presented and do all we can to make this happen.
I appreciate it.
Good. Well,
Fourth, fifth.
any other discussion? Okay. All that, but we will await the events and stuff. So, moving on to the town manager's report. Alcine, go ahead.
So as Tom alluded to the earlier, when the commercial development committee met with the ATV club, there's going to be an ATV, public hearing next select board meeting, which will be May 28th, which is a Wednesday at 6:30. The butters should be receiving a letter in the mail notifying them of the date and time.
Already, for one today, who did receive it.
Perfect,
yeah.
it's already in the mailbox.
155 property
Yes,
butters.
155 property. Yeah.
Can we hear the plan? Can
Okay.
we hear the plan?
Yeah.
What's
Well,
that? What's the plan?
Just getting to it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
Well, and then if you have any questions, obviously, please reach out to myself. So the plan, basically the gist of it is they're trying to make more access routes to the center of town without going through the center of town. They want to go ahead and, one of the routes would be off of Essex Street from the railroad bed, coming over across Essex Street Bridge, and then coming up a short portion of 15, going into Bangor Savings, and then taking River Street into Pat's Pizza or the parking lot behind there. So then people can from there can go ahead and walk downtown, patronize the businesses in there. The other route is. I'm trying to
I got them right here.
Thank you. I'm like, I'm here on the street.
Always prepared with
Thank you,
documents.
thank you. Fourth Ave, actually, yeah, there we go, Fourth Street rather. So, and then going down Dwelly, one coming down Paul Street, and then that'll, allow folks to go ahead. Well, it's Whittleburg now, but then also the barbecue place. And then further on, you can continue down Morris Ave and come out on Sanford Street, and that'll offer folks to get to Butterfield's Pharmacy. Did I say that right?
And the
Right?
credit
Pharmacy,
union also.
yeah, and the credit union as well. And then also access to the hospital. Other option, or the other route was to connect Garland to Brandsmill Pond. I think there's maybe 2 butters on that portion of land. They're not much. Cause there's been requests from Garland ATV club so that they can access the fish and then the other one is, you come off the railroad bed on, well, it's not Pine Street there, it's in Sangerville at that point. And what's that? Yeah, Dowdy Hill. And then, it'll be passing, it won't be on actual Pine Street, it's passing through fields and folks for easements. You'll then eventually dump out where, I'm gonna guess that street.
Goes to
Where it
Grove
says-
Street.
Yeah, is it Grove Street
Goes
there?
through the
Yeah,
park and.
that is Grove right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, across into Grove Street, and then you'll be able to access, everything on the lower end, like Candy Stop, Bob Sugar House, that type of thing. I think that,
It's from Grove Street, well, I have the maps at home.
Yep.
But come down Grove Street and then go down Pleasant Street. To go
To the store.
yes, to the handy, yeah.
One of the issues is, to get to part of Main Street that has the municipal parking lot behind Pat's Pizza, you'd have to go across the Essex Street Bridge. Of course, we all know the Essex Street Bridge is not going to be there for all of 2026, so that would be a workaround, during that construction period, if we go ahead and do this. But this is obviously a major change for our community to allow ATV traffic to access downtown businesses. We've got positions from the ATV folks and from downtown businesses of almost 100 signatures. They're all in favor of this, obviously. But, you know, the public hearing might bring out a different perspective. If you live on some of these residential side streets and all of a sudden have convoys of ATVs going down the street, which you never had before, you might have a different feeling about that. So that's why we thought we'd go the extra mile and send out letters sending this to the budding property owners. So no one could say, I didn't know anything about this and you're trying to sneak behind me. So, you know,
That's what we've done in the past.
yeah, and that's what, you know, you have to do that. Yeah, so I would suggest, you know, we just see what the testimony is on May 28th. I don't think we need to act on that night. I think, you know, depending on what we hear for testimony, we might want to ponder that for a while, maybe act on it the next meeting. But there are pros and cons as there are to anything. Yeah, so
Yeah, I would also just say we did talk about at the committee meeting that, you know, maybe one of these could be tried and see how it goes and see how people respond and, so I think there are other options. Not necessarily approving all these routes at the same time or, so I think we just need to be, listening tonight at the 28th and see what folks who live on those streets.
Well, we have the, you know, I can pass this around if you want to take a look at the, that's seven, it's outlined there. But yeah, one of the things that Cindy mentioned, we don't need to do this all at once. I think it struck me as odd that you would, for instance, be able to go from the ATV trail on Fairview Avenue across the bridge for a few months, and then you wouldn't have that route open anymore because the bridge wasn't be in construction. And so you give something and then you take it away within a few months. So that might be something that we wouldn't do it that way. But it'd be interesting to hear. The business owners are in favor of this, obviously, because there's more customers coming into their shops, and it would be convenient for ATV riders. You have to remember that we're the terminus of a trail that starts in Newport, that old Main Central Railroad bed, and that was designed as a trails project 25 years ago when the Economic Development Group first formed in the area. So there are people that come to Dover-Foxcroft, and that's the end of the trail, and they'd like to, you know, spend some money on when they do that. They're also part of this plan too would create where gate number 3 is on Fairview Avenue for the fairgrounds. The seldom used entrance to the back end of the fair. They propose developing that as a park and ride area for ATVs. So you could bring an ATV on a trailer, unload there, and then you know, park your vehicle and then access the trail system. So that's I think that's a good location because gate 3 is right on the railroad bed. So they've done a good job in planning this out. What I was concerned about is I want to avoid having any ATV traffic in that stretch of our downtown from Monument Square to Union Square, because it's already, those two intersections are so close together. It's already a very constricted area, and traffic can be bizarre on that. So, and they did a good job by avoiding, there would be no ATV traffic in that area. That was a smart move on their part. So I give them credit for putting this, you know, some real thought into this. And of course, we don't know the other side until we see the people that might be impacted, the quality of life might be impacted by having the characteristics of their neighborhood change. So we'll hear what they have to say, and that's part of what we do. Okay.
I was just gonna say, they did a great presentation.
Yeah.
Did you talk enforcement?
The chief of police was at the meeting. He thinks they've done a good job. So he likes the idea of, you know, getting most of the traffic, allowing downtown access without having, ATVs going up and down Main Street. That's a key part of that. One of the issues that was brought up is that part of, River Street from, Court Street intersection down to Essex Street was changed from 2-way to 1-way a number of years ago. That's why, as it's now stands, the ATVs would come over Essex Street Bridge, go into, Merrick Square, take a right, go down, East Main for a short period, then go behind Methodist Church and access River Street in the parking lot that way. If, you wouldn't have to be on Main Street at all if you went back to having two-way traffic on River Street, but then again, that part of River Street is kind of narrow and very residential.
We actually just discussed this, didn't we, at our section meeting,
Correct, but
Elfina, if you want to step in, I mean, about River Street.
Yeah, we had discussed putting River Street back to a two-way. It is the same width, the whole length of it. What makes it look narrow is the scrub brush that's growing.
Right, on the side.
And so it does look like, you're narrowing in, but that's something that can easily be taken care of and maintained to open up the area. And, as we also know, a lot of people that live on River Street actually don't do the loop, the little cut where, just because they knew it as a two-way, and I guess it wasn't until, well, I can't remember the actual date when it switched over to a one-way. But yeah, so, I mean, there was discussion about try and say no truck traffic, so that there's no major trucks that are coming through, so if they're dropping off, it's a Cisco truck or something, we weren't gonna have a tractor trailer coming through that street. And then they also discussed, well, during the Dover presentation, they spoke about, potential speed limiting, like 15 miles an hour, so you wouldn't have the loud revving sounds of the engine, more of like a lower, thing. So it was kind of hand in hand where protection was committee was talking about opening up for a two-way and looking at that again. And then also we have ATV clubs that would like to utilize.
Lots of signage would be required.
Correct.
The ATV club is on board with getting all that
Yeah, that's all
signage
on there.
purchased and installed, so.
Correct.
We're gonna, besides having the letter that's gone out to Buddy property owners, you're also gonna have ad in the paper, official legal ad, I guess. I mean, we've done what we can to get the word out. I'm looking forward to hearing what people have to say, and then, we'll weigh both sides as we always.
We mentioned this in the meeting for that federal grant,
Yes.
which they're very supportive of. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer, honestly, that it's an option, and rolling it out is correct, but statistically, but any town that does this, and you ask about volume and problem, there is not a correlation between the amount of ATVs coming into a town and an increase in problems. So believe it or not, it doesn't work like that. You have a small subset of people that sometimes don't do what they're supposed to do, but that is what our local law enforcement is for, and they are eager to make sure that they don't make a ruckus here in this town. And with the grant they're already getting to support stuff like that, we've really set this up in a way that I think there'll be minimal issues. And this isn't just the ATV club. They want to partner with Snowbird Club as well at that location. So year round, there's a spot there to unload your vehicles, park, and have a good time and enjoy your town.
Yeah, it was pointed out, most of the other towns around here already have some kind of ATV access to downtown. Greenville first pioneered that, and it's a big part of their economy. So, we'll tee it up and see how it goes. Any other questions for Elsie on that? Go on with the rest of your comments.
Oh, well, good news. The town was awarded $75,000 through the Community Resilience Partnership, Community Action Grant. Was kind of getting worried, hadn't heard anything from it. I was getting squashed, but it didn't. So very excited about that. That money is going to help upgrade our community room, make it a more efficient warming cooling center. It'll be replacing the newer heat pump in there because we have a first generation heat pump that is probably highly inefficient. And then also this will help recruit, train volunteers. Also this room will be the training room for volunteers. So a lot of the AV equipment and whatnot will be purchased through this grant. There's a whole list of those items that we can do with it. So I'm pretty excited about that. Happy it didn't go away. And that is my short list, because if anyone knows if the Kiwanis Park cleanup day is,
I'm assuming it didn't.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's because I was gonna show up and I'm like, but
Rained out like everything else.
Yeah, they're gonna.
great idea this week. 'Cause I
No,
tried-
I don't know when, but they're supposed to.
There's an
be
actual
scheduling
rain date.
Rain date for the rain date.
Yeah, exactly. So but yeah. Would like to see that and be part of it, so get that money, the rain date and we can get that plaster out there, so. Yep, that's the end of mine.
Thank you. Great. All right, final, open session for public remarks. Anyone else in the audience have a?
Sorry, I got a couple of things. Alcina, let me know if you do the wood bank. I've got a wood splitter. I'm right up the road, less than 2 minutes. And I'm more than happy to drive it down there and take a day and help split some wood for people in the community. It's not a problem. It's literally right down the road. So, and I do have some IBC cages, and I'll ask my wife if there's something to hold on the apartment. I got 3 of them, so if the town wants to have a couple to start, that'd be good. So I'll check into that. Also, thank you for putting the on social media the list of candidates. That's the first time I've seen the town do that in the years I've been here, since 2019. And to bounce off that, there was listed 2 candidates for the school board. Is there a third one?
It's a vacant position for a 2-year position.
Can you edit that post to put that in there? Because people don't know that's probably just to fill in like a year or 2 years. So that way, if anybody's interested in running right in, they can do that.
It says 2-year term on the ballot.
And I just want to say, I don't know if he just left, that I support that grant because I have a 8-month-old foster child that goes to the Cup House. It's on the back of that building. So obviously, I want him to be in a safe environment. So if that upgrades to the HVAC is part of that, then I absolutely 100% support that. So thank her for that. That's all I have.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Charles Piazza. Jane Conroy talked about painting sidewalks, and it occurred to me, if we want to beautify this town, I know we've probably already spent or found a contractor to pour sidewalks. But if you've ever visited a historical town that enjoyed tourism, they have brick sidewalks. And maybe there could be a possibility that volunteer effort, buying a square yard of bricks, we could expand on what's in front of the center theater is like a little section of brick sidewalk, you've probably seen it before, about 10 by 12 or so. Wouldn't it be awesome if we could take that money for pouring a sidewalk and raise money for bricks, and then ask for volunteers to install the bricks, whether it's packing down the ground or laying the bricks. York, Maine, where we're from, they had a committee that put in all these beautiful bricks around the goldenrod. If you've ever been there before, it's just gorgeous. Of course, it's gonna maybe offset losing a river. We could gain some beautiful bricks, and just wanted to float that out there because I realize it has to be, into the community enhancement program, but maybe it's not too late. And I bet we could probably see on Facebook a lot of people volunteering to install those bricks. And hey, if we have a historical district, let's make it historical. It's probably more permanent to have them bricks instead of boardwalk, but it would be a real enhancement for the community. Thank you.
Other comments from the public? Yes.
Sean Piazza, I was just curious with the ATV trails, if the town does choose to say goodbye to the dam, were the ATVers, thinking about using the sides of the river for access for the ATVs? Has that crossed your mind at all?
Mm-mm.
And the other thing I was curious, are just curious, are the Amish able to use the ATV trail? Might be something for safety,
I mean, the ATV trails are,
They're open access.
yeah, they're open access. As far as horse and buggy, I'm not sure because that's considered a vehicle, or at least I believe
They're allowed.
they're allowed.
Horses
Okay.
definitely are
I
allowed.
know,
I
I know
don't
horses
whether
and
the
horseback
buggies
riding.
are.
And it also depends on the trail.
Yeah.
There's state funded maintained and there's private.
Correct.
But we can definitely check into it.
Hey, Charles Piazza again. Steve Lemansky, has a game space. And last Wednesday, we had a checkerboard, we had we had a chess game played on the sidewalk and it attracted some attention. We had someone come into the Union Square Mall. And so if we're in a development program, it might be neat to have some semi-permanent tables that can be placed out in the season for 2 or 3 games, checkers and whatever anyone wants, right there by Union Square Mall, which has so many businesses inside. So for Steve Lemansky, that's a little input from him.
Anything else? About board comments? All right, well, so how about, motion to adjourn?
Motion.